Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. Today's September 22nd, which means today is my birthday. So happy birthday to me and everyone celebrating their birthday today. Today, we are diving into three big stories that all revolve around California Governor Gavin Newsom. They tell us a lot about the way he governs, the way he uses rhetoric, and how he positions himself nationally. We're going to talk about the new bill he just signed to protect immigrants, the so-called No Secret Police Act that bans face masks for law enforcement, and then his social media post that was so controversial, it actually got referred to the Secret Service for a threat assessment. Welcome to Nellie Miranda.
I want to shift gears a little bit to the political situation there in California. There's a bill, state lawmakers in California passing a bill this week that would ban ICE agents from wearing masks, as well as local police. This is part of what they've been trying to do. And we've heard from agents and leaders who say that they're covering their face specifically because of the threats to them and also their families. So what do you make of this bill, especially after this incident that we saw yesterday? And also, he hasn't said yet, but do you think the Governor Newsom will sign this? Your thoughts?
I don't believe he will because it lacks common sense. And we hope that he's learning from the political examples that exist in President Trump, the leadership of Secretary Newsom and the department. We need to conduct these operations. These agents need to protect their identity as far as their faces because they've been doxxed online. Assaults against ICE officers are up over 1,000%. And so they need to do all the things that they can do to tactically protect themselves. And they and their families deserve better than the leadership in California.
Well, it is apparent that Gavin Newsom clearly lacks common sense. Let's start with the bills Newsom just signed. California will now require immigration enforcement officers to reveal their identities during operations. That means no more masked ICE agents in schools, hospitals, or other sensitive areas. The law officially go into effect on January 1st, 2026.
Push to ban face coverings for federal agents operating in California is heading to Governor Newsom's desk. This week, the state legislature passed two measures cracking down on immigration enforcement. That includes the No Secret Police Act. This prohibits any law enforcement officer, local, state, or federal, from concealing their face. They also passed the No Vigilantes Act, which expands existing laws against impersonating law enforcement and requires all officers to visibly display their ID. Both bills hope to boost public trust and safety.
Newsom framed these moves as protecting immigrant communities, saying people shouldn't feel like they are being targeted by secret police. Here's the man of the hour, Gavin Newsom.
I'll be signing a bill, the first in the nation, saying enough. To ICE, unmask. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? If you're going to go out and you're going to do enforcement, provide an ID. Tell us which agency you represent. Provide us basic information that all local law enforcement is required to provide. Have the decency not to threaten people as they go to school, to go out the parking lots proximate to these schools to create chill. I thought Jon Stewart said it best. This is not about the pronoun police. This is about the secret police. We're not North Korea, Mr. President. We're not the Soviet Union. This is the United States of America. And I'm really proud of the state of California and our state of mind that we're pushing back against these authoritarian tendencies and actions of this administration.
Now, transparency is a noble goal. Nobody wants rogue agents showing up in schools without identification, but here's a problem with that. These laws don't just apply to local police. They're aimed at federal agents too, and constitutionally, that's shaky ground. States do not get to tell federal officers how to do their jobs. That's federal jurisdiction. So the first question is, will this law even survive a legal challenge? And beyond that, there's officer safety. Sometimes agents wear masks to protect their families, to hide their identification from violent cartels, or because they're working undercover. A blanket ban on face coverings might make good headlines, but it puts real people at risk. That is something Newsom conveniently ignores. Now let's look closer at the second piece of this, the so-called No Secret Police Act. This law prohibits most law enforcement officers in California from wearing masks or face coverings during official duties. And yes, it even applies to federal immigration enforcement.
Well, one of those bills would require law enforcement officers, including federal agents, to not wear masks. And the other one would require them to identify themselves with a badge with their name on there or their officer number. Now, supporters of both bills say this could increase accountability and safety, but critics say this may also put the officers at risk. Volunteers with the Orange County Rapid Response Network say they were alarmed the first time they saw immigration officers wearing masks back in May. They say they weren't sure who they were dealing with.
They could not disclose which agency they were from. They also could not disclose their badge number, their names.
So now, Sandra Deanda says she is relieved the California legislature has approved 2 companion bills aimed at stopping that from happening. The first, Senate Bill 627, authored by Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco, bars on-duty law enforcement, including federal agents, from concealing their faces.
It undermines public safety, and you should always be able to tell the difference between a law enforcement officer and a guy robbing a liquor store. And these ski masks make that distinctive part.
The second measure, Senate Bill 805, written by Senator Sasha Perez of Pasadena, requires all officers to wear visible identification.
We made clear that if the federal government is not complying with these laws, that people have the right, to a civil action to bring forward a suit if they're not able to identify who these federal immigration agents are, and that there will be fines and penalties.
Supporters say that it builds trust between communities and police. They claim if officers are masked, people feel like they're living in a police state. But critics argue, and I agree, that this is another example of Sacramento politicians trying to tie the hands of law enforcement. There are legitimate reasons officers wear masks. Gangs target cops, cartels retaliate against families. Masking can even help de-escalate a tense crowd situation. So the question becomes, is this really about transparency or is it about politics? Because the timing of these laws suggests that it is less about safety and more about scoring points against the federal government, especially on immigration. California is setting itself up for yet another showdown with Washington, and once again, it's everyday law enforcement officers who will pay the price. And that brings us to our last story. Just as Newsom was signing these bills, his press office posted on X, and I quote, "Kristi Noem is going to have a bad day today." That one sentence set off alarm bells. DHS officials said it sounded like a threat. Acting U.S. Attorney Bill Ayasali took it so seriously, he referred the post to the Secret Service for a threat assessment. Tricia McLaughlin responded, calling Gavin's team keyboard warriors.
From Governor Newsom's office, that post right there on your screen says, quote, "Kristi Noem is going to have a bad day today. You're welcome, America." Again, ominous, no real description of what Newsom is talking about. Noem, the former governor of South Dakota, is of course now the secretary of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security under President Donald Trump. The Homeland Security Department then reposting a response from Tricia McLaughlin. She is the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security, and her post responding to Governor Newsom's press office tweet says, quote, "This reads like a threat. This is ugly, Gavin Newsom. Your keyboard warrior team may hide behind their laptops and spew this kind of vitriol, but you would never have the guts to say this to her face."
Now, was Newsom literally threatening Noem? Probably not. I think it's a bit of a reach, but that's not the point. Words matter, rhetoric matter, and in this political climate, I guess public officials have to be careful with their words. Or are we just really inching towards censorship in America? We'll have to stick around to find out. Do you think California's new laws will even survive legal challenges? Do you think Newsom's bad day comment crossed the line into a threat, or is it a reach? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if honest commentary brings you value, please make sure you like to support the channel and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.